And
right.
That's pretty much all in a nutshell.
All right. Yeah, thanks a lot, John. I appreciate it. You do great work, and happy to have you join us, and really I'm looking forward to your perspective on how we can make this a great event.
Great.
What I'd like to do very quickly is kind of recap what we went over last month. It was a very good meeting, I thought, a very good kickoff meeting to get your perspective on how to make this a success. And basically what we're looking at here is a two-day event. On January 17th and 18th are the dates that we've decided on, in which the first day we're going to be working with a convention of employers to help them understand why hiring veterans is going to be one of the best business decisions they make. And in order to do that, we will engage in military cultural competency as well as training them on best practices in recruiting, hiring, and retaining veterans. This is to say that the first day will be focused on the demand side of the workforce development equation, helping employers understand how military talent is a solution for their labor skills gap. The situation throughout not just New York City, but throughout New York State and throughout the United States is that there is a widening skills gap among the demand side of the workforce development and from the supply side of the workforce development. And my goal here in New York City, partnering with you all, is to help build bridges to be able to cross that gap from the demand side to the supply side, mainly by educating employers how military talent does fill that gap, and how we can also work with veterans to build up their skills to help fill that gap as well. Day two, after that, we will also have a reception that evening. Excuse me, before I go on. That's the plan anyway, is to have a reception that evening after the employer training day. And then the second day would be a military workforce recruiting day or a veteran recruiting day, which is a unique format in which a select group of employers with open positions will be able to engage directly with a job-ready military population in order to essentially capitalize on the talent that they learned about the previous day and bring them into their own workforce. The idea is to have anywhere between 12 and 15 employers and anywhere between 70 and 100 veterans for an all-day networking / hiring event that somewhat resembles speed dating. What I was hoping to do with the last meeting, I had two videos set up that did not end up playing over the phone because I thought the speakers were connected, but they weren't, and I've been having trouble getting the audio playing this time as well. So unfortunately, the videos again won't play, but I did send out links to them, and hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to watch these videos just for the purpose of getting a quick 5-minute overview of how each event would work. Again, with the recruiting day on the video on the left, we've got about 12 to 15 employers rotating from table to table of about 7 to 10 veterans, getting to know them, getting to know their skills, and trying to see how they would fit into their workforce. Again, we did this event probably about 16 or 17 times. I was working for Governor McAuliffe and Governor McDonnell in Virginia, and the satisfaction rate was overwhelming. We found that it was just such a great interactive event that's been replicated since by the Department of Defense as well as some of the other national organizations. And when veterans walked away, over the course of all of our events, about 80 to 85% of the veterans walked away from this event with a positive lead toward employment. And it's important to recognize that that doesn't even necessarily mean they had a positive lead toward employment with the employers there. But one of the things that we work with the veterans prior to is let them know how valuable the network of HR managers and recruiters at this event will be, and to even if they're not the perfect fit for a company at the table, make sure that they build that network of others, because I guarantee you the HR manager or recruiter has a network of companies that might be the perfect fit for that veteran talent. And likewise for the employers, we definitely encourage them to build that network of veterans, because veterans being an elusive population, it's always good to have a few veterans in your back pocket when you are looking for a pipeline of others, because if there's one thing that every veteran has, it's a veteran network. The video on the right would show, and it does show, but you won't be able to hear it, basically how an employer training convention would run. And it's just a gathering of employers there to learn about the military population, or if they are familiar with the military population already, how to improve their veteran talent acquisition and retention methods. And so we go through military cultural competency, but also train on best practices in recruiting, hiring, and retaining veterans. So we'll move on now to very quickly just to go over the date and location of events. And here's where I'm going to have a well, before I go on, I'm sorry. I would like to open it up to anyone that has any questions on these two events, because I know there's several people on the phone or on the screen right now that weren't at the last meeting, and they might have a couple questions. So I'll go ahead and pause for a second, and if anyone's got any questions, let me know.
Well, it's not. Well, here, John Escalante here. It's not really a question. I'd just like to share a great practice that I've had with some of the veteran-friendly employers. One of the biggest obstacles that recruiting and hiring leads have with the veteran sector is understanding or comprehending the enormous amount of acronyms that we use on the resumes, and as well as having a fundamental understanding of what a DD-214 is, looks like, and I can certainly understand the contents of it's a culture clash. So I've partnered up with several other individuals with these organizations and had a roundtable with their hiring manager, their hiring leads, their recruiters in one room, and basically did a 60-minute, maybe even 90-minute overview of these acronyms and DD-214s. And when we left that room, not only was it a great opportunity for networking, but they were overwhelmed with the knowledge that they left that room with. And they were extraordinarily grateful. And I think that setting something up prior to the event with the select employers would be so phenomenal. I mean, it's just a great idea. I've done that in the past, maybe 3 or 4 times, and, you know, it's always been a great practice. Perfect.
Yeah, John, I'd like to get with you sometime in the future just to kind of discuss what you've got in place, because you know, it's not my intention here to duplicate, reinvent the wheel or anything like that. And you know, this is about building partnerships, not necessarily doing something brand new. So if you've got some suggestions on how we can best present that, I would love to hear it.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Awesome. All right. Okay, so this is at the last meeting, I had sent out prior to it the idea of having these events on November 7th and 8th. However, given that there was already a significant event planned for those dates through one of our other partners, Veterans on Wall Street, I happily decided to move that back several months. Gives me a little bit more time to plan and build up the logistics and everything, and also allows us not to compete with someone who's already got something planned and in the space. So we decided to move these events to January 17th and 18th of 2018. Now, what we did not decide is the locations for these events, but one thing that we discussed in the last meeting was that these don't all have to be in the same place. It would be preferable to have the first day on the 17th, the employer training seminar and the reception near each other, but the recruiting day does not necessarily have to be in the same location either. Depending on what is the best situation geographically as well as logistically, it might make more sense to have the recruiting day in some place like Brooklyn, whereas it might make more sense to have the employer training day in some place like Manhattan. I'm not sure. I haven't been in New York City that long. You all have been there much longer and have a better idea. So we could probably go around and discuss, you know, however many. I'm sure every person on the call has an idea of where we could have these events. But I'm going to send out this presentation, and I am recording this presentation as well, so you'll get a link to that as well. but I'd encourage you to take a look at the what the very minimal requirements that I have here listed on the screen. For the employer training day on January 17th, we're looking at maxing out at 200 attendees. The event venue would require a registration area, round tables and chairs, a stage, podium, audio-visual, presentation screens, and handicap accessible. For the reception that evening, we could max out probably at 100 attendees, although I'm not entirely sure on that yet. We would want room for a bar, standing tables, podium, audio-visual, and again, handicap accessible. And for the next day, January 18th, we'd be looking for a space to accommodate up to 150 attendees. That includes employers, that includes veterans, that includes resource providers, and that includes volunteers who would help coordinate that event. We would need room for registration, about 12 to 15 round tables, about 100 chairs, room for resource tables, again, audio-visual, podium, presentation screen, and handicap accessible. Again, I'll send out these slides. It'll have those requirements up there, and I would very much like to hear from you on what sort of spaces are available. Obviously, free is best. But if there's a need to, if there is a need to put some money down on some space, I'm willing to entertain that as well. We found that having these events at employers' headquarters often is successful, especially for the employer training seminars. Often that works very, very well. Even with the recruiting days, having them at employers' buildings can be very popular for other employers as well as for the veterans. So keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be a convention hall. It doesn't have to be a hotel. I'd be willing to entertain any option. I would only ask that if you do have suggestions, please send them to me by August 28th, and we'll discuss them at the next event, which I'll go over here soon. In the interest of moving along on time, I did send out a save the date flyer, and here it is right here on my screen now. Feel free to send this out as to whoever you wish, whether it be an employer or whether it be a veterans network, whether it be if you are an employer that's on this call, to your hiring managers, to your recruiters. What we'd like to see, I don't want to limit it to 2 people per company at the employer training seminar. I'd like to see as many attendees as we can get there. So if you're able to bring 10 recruiters or 10 hiring managers as an employer, that's great. But if you have a network of employers, feel free to send this out as well. There's no website up for it yet. There's no registration site for it yet. That's something I've got to work with PVA headquarters on to get that up and running. But we'll definitely let you know when that registration website is up and we have a more official event flyer rather than just to save the date. But in the meantime, feel free to send this out to your networks. Send it out to your veteran networks, your employer networks, or even your resource provider networks. We'd like to be able to have space for our partners at both of these events in some form or fashion. So you can advertise your services and provide your expertise to both the employers and the veterans at these events. Okay, I'm 1:21. I am very cognizant of time, and I'm going to finish this before 1:30. I promise. All right. Quantitative metrics for success. We kind of discussed strategically what quantitative success looks like at the last meeting. And what I'd like to see, and if there's any, we can have a little bit of discussion on this, but for the employer training day, I mentioned we'll max out at 200. At least that's my plan right now. We can always increase if the demand is so great. But to me, a successful event would be at least 100 attendees from various sectors, from the private sector, from public sector, as well as from the nonprofit sector. We'd also like to see a measured increase in learning, and we can measure that through after-action surveys that we can distribute at the event. Measured increase in learning in 2 main areas, military cultural competency, as well as best practices in veteran talent acquisition and retention. Networking success, that's a little bit harder to measure. It may not even be a quantitative metric, but I wanted to put it on there, something to keep in mind. Yeah, we want this to be valuable for the employers, not just for the not just for the information learned, but also for connections that they've been able to make with resource providers, with talent pipeline resources, as well as with other employers, business-to-business networking as well. That's always one of the most popular parts of these types of events. For the next event, the recruiting day, we'd like to see at least 12 employers there with open positions ready to hire. We can max out at 15, but 12 to 15 is the ideal. At least 70 job-ready veterans. That's what we're looking for. Sounds like a low number, but it's surprisingly difficult. Typically, we have to over-register by about 40% just to get that number, because they'll end up dropping out or finding a job before the event and not needing to go. But we'll have more details on that as at the next meeting, how the registration will work. Resource providers are able to offer their information and get new leads and get new clients, as well as finally measured satisfaction. And this is based off previous events that I've had. I would like to see at least a 75% positive lead toward employment, and at least 95% would recommend the event to others. And again, we can do that through quantitative surveys following the completion of the event. So any questions on that, on those metrics, or what success looks like, or any suggestions, any offerings that you might have, perspectives from you? I'll pause for a second.
One quick question as far as the demographics for the minimum of 12 employers on the second day. Mm-hmm. Are we focusing any percentages on the sectors, like, for example, a certain percentage for IT, certain percentage for logistics, operations, sales, or any breakdown on that?
That's a great question. I wouldn't have any specific quota in mind, although I'd certainly be willing to entertain it. But generally, the concept has been to have a wide variety of sectors available. That way, it's not entirely competitive between all manufacturing companies, for example. But there's plenty of opportunities for a wide range of talent, as well as a wide range of opportunities. As far as the percentages in that, I don't believe I'm familiar enough with the market space in order to establish that. But definitely would be willing to hear ideas on that moving forward.
Okay. So just to avoid, like, for example, if we have 10 employers and they're all in finance, and then we have two other sectors.
Definitely.
So just to avoid that.
That's exactly the direction that I was heading in as well. So I think we're talking about the same thing. Okay. Yeah, we've got some finance companies, we've got some healthcare companies, we've got some real estate companies that are on board as part of this call, and so some IT companies as well. I think there's enough demand to find a wide range of employers in a wide range of sectors. Getting the employers is never the hard part. It's always getting the veterans there. That is the biggest hurdle. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you tell an employer about a free job fair, a free talent fair, they're gonna jump on it. So I think we'll be able to have a good pool from which to choose.
Are you sure free is the best? Because some of these other ones charge like $1,500 a table. And
right. Yeah. Well, this is kind of a rollout. A rollout of an event for PVA, and we're a nonprofit organization. The idea of charging has been suggested before, and I'm not totally opposed to it actually, because it keeps the employers vested. But for this one at least, I think anyway, this is up to PVA headquarters at the end of the day. But my plan was to have it as a low cost as possible to the employer. But yeah, job fairs can get real expensive. I know they can.
You've got to pay for the open bar at the end of the first day.
Right. Exactly. But I'm going to have a discussion with headquarters about that, because we've talked briefly about it, but never have closed the loop on it. That's something that we need to determine quickly, because it's going to need to be something that's on the event flyer rather than the save the date flyer for sure, especially for the employers. They're going to want to know cost up front. So I'll go ahead and close the loop on that by the next meeting. And with that being said, is there any other discussion on that before we move on?
Just to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are there any other groups that you may want to partner with, like either Hire Our Heroes or Edge for Vets, which I see them holding these events or the
the more people that we can partner with, the better from my perspective. I'm not when it comes to getting veterans hired, there's a certain element of competition that I have as far as wanting to provide the best service, but the more people that we have at the table, I think there's room for everyone's expertise in helping make this a successful event. So I'm not opposed to any partnership anyone has in mind.
Yeah, the Veterans on Wall Street, when they have the tables, there's about 10 tables of groups that do nothing but help veterans. On top of the hiring side.
Well, Veterans on Wall Street is actually here on this call. And Chris Perkins was kind enough to assist me in when Paralyzed Veterans of America was in New York City to host an employment panel. So I'm hoping that partnership will continue to grow and that we can see synergy in getting veterans hired, because they provide a very valuable service, and I think that we're working well together.
Awesome.
Yep. All right. Well, if you've got any other questions, feel free to reach out anytime to my email. Unfortunately, the email system we have sends a lot of external mail to my junk mail, so I have to check that constantly. But I do eventually get it. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but I do eventually get it. But our next meeting will be on August 31st, and this will be an in-person meeting at the same place as last time, 5 Hanover Square in Manhattan. Again, I've blocked 2 hours. But it probably will not take 2 hours. And the deliverables from here, I'm asking for you all to send a Save the Date flyer out to your networks just to start generating some interest. Send me some location ideas. I will, at the next meeting, I will have a logistics tracking sheet roll out just to kind of give you an idea of the project timeline and deliverables on a little bit more of a detailed micro level. And I will also have the project timeline with the Gantt chart and everything like that at the next meeting as well, so you can get a better visualization of how this event will unfold. So with that being said, it's about 10 seconds to 1:30, and I've made it. Again, I did record this session, and I will send out the link to it. I'll record it and put it on YouTube as well in case you're unable to access a Dropbox file. But again, feel free to reach out any time with any questions, and I look forward to continuing this conversation on August 31st. And everyone, I hope you have a great day.
Okay, don't forget about the cost as well. Thank you.
And don't forget about what?
Don't forget about the cost as well to the employers.
Thank you. Yes, I'll add that to the deliverables right now.
Okay.
Andrew. Is there a hashtag to track the social media interaction, or should we create one soon?
Perfect.
Andrew, this is Oswaldo from the Department of Veteran Services.
Yeah, what's up, Oswaldo?
Okay. So you're asking us to send out the Save the Date flyer. That's the third attachment in the email you sent us today?
Yeah, let me pull it up here on my screen.
It says Save the Dates on it. I'm a little concerned about the fact that your office address is at the bottom of it. Just looking at this at a first glance, my first assumption would be, as a veteran, would be that the event itself is being held at that location at 5 Hanover Square, 6th floor, New York, New York.
Okay.
Just looking at it at first value, that would be my first.
Would it help if I added a location, like up at the top, location TBD or something?
Exactly. So if you could update that, that would be perfect for my uses.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Oz. Appreciate you joining us.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Andrew, I'm going to give you in a few minutes, okay?
Say again now?
I'll give you a call in a minute.
Okay. Sounds good.